everybody. We are happy that you joined us for the 5th edition of Organic Webinars, a series hosted by Nuremberg Messe India, BioFAC India, and curated by BioReporter International. The team BioReporter International, that is Sandeep Kamat. Hi, Sandeep. He's based in Bangalore and board member of IFAM Asia. He is active in the organic sector since more than 10 years and a consultant, founder, speaker, organizer of events, and much more. He is especially dedicated to the biodynamic ideas and philosophy in the international community. Sandeep, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Thank you. And that is Karen Heinz, based close to Frankfurt in Germany. She's the founder of BioReporter International Communication Service. She has been in the organic sector for almost 40 years. She studied agriculture and also has worked on a biodynamic Demeter farm. She's a world-renowned organic journalist, photographer, videographer, and always inspired by the ideas of the worldwide organic movement.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. So with organic webinars, we would like to update you, our interested audience, to important topics from the organic sector worldwide. So, and that we will do with the help of our international and Indian experts, our esteemed panelists. Today, we will focus on the topic of sustainability. We have really exciting topics like true cost accounting, save our soils, sustainability flower, and the economy of love. So we have experts from all over the world, and Sandeep and me, we have the honor to guide you through this program. So we have 90 minutes ahead with full of information, high quality presentations, discussions, and your questions. But first, Shiva Kumar Venugopal, Director of Nuremberg Messe, member of the management board, will give his welcome note to us. Please, Shiva Kumar, screen is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone from India. It's a pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists, participants, and of course our moderators on the occasion of the 5th webinar in the series organized by Nuremberg Messe India. It's a great pleasure to have you all for today's topic on sustainability reporting, from an exclusive tool to a must-have for market visibility, organized by Nuremberg Messe India under the ambit of BioFAC India. As you all know, this sector with an aim of bringing various domain experts together to address the key issues of sustainability and healthy living. Our sincere thanks to APIDA for their continuous support in organizing BioFAC with us. Now I take the honor of introducing our esteemed speakers of the day. Mr. Volkert Engelman, Chief Executive Officer, Eosta. Mr. Krishnendu Chattendee, Senior Vice President, Center of Excellence at Darjeeling Organic PS Private Limited. Mr. Helmy Abouleish, Chief Executive Officer, SEKEM. And of course, a warm welcome to our moderators, Ms. Karen Heinz, Founder, BioReporter International from Germany, and Mr. Sandeep Kamat, Board Member, IFAM Asia. I also thank our supporting associations, ECOVA, the International Competence Center for Organic Agriculture, OFI, the Organic Farming Association of India, and the Association of Indian Organic Industry, and our media partner, Pure and Eco India, for their continuous support for our BioFAC events. Before I hand over the floor for today's discussion, I would like to make an important announcement on our BioFAC India 2020 show. The 12th edition will be organized in a digital format from October 29 to 31st of this year by Nuremberg Messe India. The current pandemic situation has forced us to go digital, and the WeGo Digital Edition will offer comprehensive presentation options and a year-long networking community building opportunities. The digital event will be held under the aegis of Agriculture and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, which is otherwise called APIDA, under the Ministry of Commerce, India, and would aim to connect all the players from the organic and natural industry over a single platform. I request all of you to mark your calendar for our first digital show in the last week of October, and looking forward to e-meet before we re-meet. Now I will leave the floor open for the discussions and presentation. Thank you. Over to Sandeep and Karen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shiva Kumar. Dear audience, to make this webinar as interesting, helpful, and interactive as possible for you, please let me explain some technical issues on WebEx to have the best performance, a lively discussion, and an interactive session. To make sure the voice quality is best as possible, please ensure your mics are muted. Only the speaker's mics are switched on. At the bottom of your WebEx screen, you can see that there is a chat box, which is in the fifth box. You can also put your relevant comments and questions. We also have a question and answer box. You can put your questions on there as well. We will try to answer as many as them as we can during the program. In case we are not able to, you can also send your questions by email to the address biofark.webinar@nm-india.com. We really appreciate your feedback, and we will be sending your feedback form after this event. And for submitting the feedback form, you will also get a participation certificate. This event is going to be live streamed on YouTube and LinkedIn and also recorded. The webinars are available at the Nürnberg Messi BioFark India YouTube channel and the BioReporter International website. Ravi, please can you share the link?
Yes, thank you, Sandeep. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first expert and the founder of Eosta, that's Volkert Engelman. He's Chief Executive Officer of Eosta and Nature and More. So after graduating in economics and business administration, Volkert worked in the United States before founding Eosta in 1990 in the Netherlands. Eosta has developed to Europe's largest importer and distributor of organically grown fresh produce, and as well as to the sustainability leader. All Eosta products carry a unique code that is called Nature and More Trace and Tell code. It's a QR code. And it provides retailers and consumers with direct web access to the unique story of the producer, and as well to the ecological and social impact. So during 2015, the United Nations Year of Soil, Eosta launched the Save Our Soil campaign. Together with FAO, 200 partners, and many VIPs, amongst whom Desmond Tutu, Julia Roberts, or the Dalai Lama, this campaign was launched. Eosta also launched the True Cost Account Food Initiative. It promotes the principle that food prices should reflect the true cost of food, including hidden environmental and social impacts and costs. So this transparency initiative shows consumers the true cost of organic versus conventional while shopping. So we will hear about that also from Tobias at the end of our webinar. But now, Volkert, we are looking forward to your presentation. The screen is yours, please.
Thank you, dear Karen. And thank you, dear Shiva Kumar and Sandeep and all the friends from the organizing committee for putting this together under not easy circumstances. And man, I really miss it. I would have loved to visit you. And you, Karen, seem to be in India, is that right? No, okay. I was going to envy you, but even you are online. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about Helmy and the rest, but I really miss that traveling and seeing the friends from around the world. Is really getting used to it. Corona is not only about mouth covers and 1.5 meters distancing. It also seems to be suffocating us a little bit from seeing each other and traveling. But it's not only suffocating ourselves. For some reason, it should be replaced by us. We seem to be suffocating ourselves a little bit, because if we destroy biodiversity, if we keep warming up the climate, if we keep destroying nitrogen cycles, which is precisely what's happening right now, we seem to be taking the ability away of nature to deal with these kind of pandemics. So we can point at Corona as something from inside, but from outside. But I think if we are truly and honest to each other, to ourselves, then we can no longer avoid that mirroring reality that we are actually the cause of it. And this is precisely what Johan Rockström, a scientist from Sweden, has been sharing with us for many years, that we are blasting through the boundaries of our planet. Biodiversity, climate change, nitrogen cycles. We are equally blasting through the social foundations of our society. By, if you look at the widening wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots, if you look at the I can't breathe, nice metaphor, talking about breathing problems caused by Corona. If you look at the yellow vests, if you look at what's going on in Belarus right now, if you look at many other demonstrations where people no longer accept this wealth gap and social injustice, we can clearly see the challenge on the table to embark on an economy that stays within the boundaries of our planet and within the boundaries of the foundations of our society. And this is precisely what Kate Raworth, an economist from the UK, is advocating. She talks about the present economy as a cuckoo's young that parasitizes on people and planet. And she advocates an economy that stays within the boundaries of people and planet. Now, to get there is obviously an enormous challenge. But we have the Sustainable Development Goals developed by the United Nations and many private institutions, 17 to be precise, which Johan Rockström has allocated in this wedding cake model. He took all planet-related SDGs, which he allocated to the bottom layer, all people-related SDGs he allocated to the middle layer, and then surprisingly, all economy-related SDGs to the top layer. And people often wonder, well, you know, people, planet, profit, that triple bottom line, isn't that a bit tricky? Because we talk about people and planet, but in the end, it's all about profit. And, you know, if you exploit people and planet, you get away with a competitive advantage. So that's more profitable. So there's this huge challenge on the table to redefine profit. After all, how you define profit depends on how you answer the purpose question. How do you define your own profit? And we would all admit, I'm sure, that for us, profit is only profit if people and planet profit as well, not if other people suffer or the planet. Otto Scharmer, a scientist from America, speaks of the three divides: the natural, the social, and the spiritual divide, whereby the natural divide, you know, separates us from nature. The social divide separates us from the other human being. But the real intimate divide is within ourselves. It separates us from who we are. So I think, without wanting to become too philosophical about it, if we look in the mirror of the ecological challenges, the social challenges, we look at the limitations of our own thinking. So we have to rethink our profit definition. Now, if you say that is that's something, Engelsman, I mean, do you know what you're talking about? To be totally honest with you, no. I have honestly no idea what I'm talking about, but others do. People in Bhutan, for instance, have embarked not on a gross national product, but on a gross national happiness index that includes ecological, social, and cultural indicators. Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, has done exactly the same by redefining national wealth on the basis of ecological, social, psychological, cultural, spiritual indicators. And if we look at Europe, we can see this happening right under our nose as well. This is an image of Mark Carney, the governor of the central bank in the UK, who is including climate stress tests and biodiversity stress tests in his risk assessment exercises, which he applies to the financial sector. And the reasoning, the logic behind it is, you may look profitable, but if you emit greenhouse gases, that reflects a financial risk in the future. After all, you may be confronted with consumers who no longer accept that, or with a carbon tax that may bring down your profit. So the central banks, and with them the credit rating agencies, S&P Global, Moody's, Fitch, but also commercial banks and institutional investors, are increasingly including sustainability indicators like climate or biodiversity or health or your water footprint or soil fertility footprint into their RAROCs, into their risk-adjusted return on capital. BlackRock, one of the largest institutional investors, is playing around with this. And the cynics say, well, they talk about it, they don't do much yet, which is entirely true. But the fact that they talk about it is already a promising example, because there's no way back from including people and planet in the new profit and financial risk definition. So I think we potentially have a powerful ally in the financial sector to team up with. Sustainability seems to be breaking out of its bubble, and it seems to be trickling down into the DNA of our financial sector. And yes, they do speak a completely different language, but so do we. And I think it is not about language only, it's about sharing the same dot on the horizon and sharing the same dreams and goals. And whether you approach it from a moral, an ethical, a green, or a risk mitigation point of view doesn't really matter. After all, we're in the same boat, and we are there to address that last hurdle. We know about people and planet. Now we need to tackle that perverse incentive that lies in a wrong profit definition that is bankrupt and done and dusted and history. We need the new normal, which is a new profit definition that includes people and planet. If you look at what we do right now here in the Netherlands, but also in the rest of the world, we've decided to put a little stamp, as Karen said, on all our products with a QR code that gives consumers access to the unique story of each and every grower, and also to his or her footprint on people and planet. As you can see, we have this summarized this together with Helmy and many other friends in the Desert Club, a think tank of sustainable and impact entrepreneurs. We've developed this sustainability flower, whereby we define people in a threefold way by looking at the threefold slogan of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, and fraternity. In other words, looking at the individual potential, looking at gender and other equality and equal opportunities, and looking at a fair distribution of wealth throughout the supply chain. Planet, we have defined in a fourfold way, and if you look at it from a distance, you may recognize the four realms of nature. We have embedded this sustainability together with the friends of that think tank in the SDGs of United Nations. And obviously, the way we apply this sustainability flower differs from country, from company to company. And Helmy will share a slightly different model, probably, or Tobias, who will speak later. But the core of the matter remains the same. We've also started to not only monitor, manage, market sustainability, 3 M's, but we've added a 4th M. We've decided to also monetize the impact of sustainability in monetary terms, in money terms. If you take, for instance, this avocado from Mexico, you see that the organic benefit from a healthy soil treatment is about 250 euros, whereas its conventional neighbor destroys soil fertility at a rate of 1,160 euros per hectare per year, simply by applying mineral fertilizers that may have a positive impact on yield per hectare, but it depletes soil, except that you don't see that in the cost price. It's your kids or the next generation that is confronted with the costs of that soil depletion. After all, soil is an important and powerful domain, like a portal for better water holding capacity of soils, mitigating climate change, contributing to biodiversity, and after all, probably the most important, also healthy soils contribute to an improved pest and disease resistance of your plants. Now the challenge is, all the growers know this, by the way. Now the challenge is to convince the consumers. This is how we try to communicate with the consumers. Our slogan is, organic is not too expensive, conventional is too cheap. Buy these organic avocados and save 6 cubic meters of fertile soil. On the flip side of this shelf stopper or little card that appears on the supermarket shelves, you see the monetized impact. Monetizing things is difficult, is complicated, so you need to visualize it in order to communicate to the hearts of the consumer. And that is not enough. Karen mentioned the Save Our Soils campaign. So we decided to introduce not just tomatoes or mangoes, but soil mates to the market. And we added a little bit of compost and basil seeds, because we said, listen, my friend, dear customer, the soil is the limit, not the sky. And organic is probably one of the best solutions. And you, dear consumer, can become a soilder by digging up a pavement stone and starting a little guerrilla garden with the compost and basil seeds that we provided you with. And then if you put this on YouTube, ideally whilst digging up at an illegal spot and whilst the police is trying to stop you, then you can win a prize. And many VIPs teamed up in this campaign, like Karen mentioned, the Julia Roberts, the Renate Künast, Indian chiefs, the General Secretary of FAO of United Nations, and many others started doing this. So that had a big impact on putting soil fertility on the radar of scientists again, consumers, and not at the least the markets, which seem to have forgotten about the importance of soil fertility. Now we do the same with water. This is an example of organic grapes. If you buy organic grapes, you can save up to 25,000 liters of water per hectare per year. And in countries like Holland, that's not a big thing, because we will be drowning by the end of this century anyway, or earlier. But for guys like Helmy or others in more dry desert climates, this is crucially important. And only in a level playing field, in a market where the polluter pays and externalized costs are made transparent, it becomes clear that organic is the only solution. Because on the short term, you may gain some extra kilos per hectare, but you won't be able to keep doing that. You need to look at it from the long term. And then the examples delivered by SEKEM in Egypt are incredibly powerful, because they live this new economic reality that organic farming is the only way to sustain our ability to be profitable in future, to produce food in future. The same applies to greenhouse gases. And we've also started to monetize the impact of health. We calculated with the help of EY and the WHO that organic apples are 19 cents healthier than conventional apples. And in an image that would reflect 27 sick days per hectare per year. Now, the question is, how do you communicate this in the market? Not only by putting up these shelf stoppers but also to add information on your packaging, which is what we did. But we actually hate packaging, so we got rid of plastic particularly. So we needed to laser brand our products, which is a clever technique that replaces packaging. So at point of sale, you can clearly identify what is organic and what is not organic. You can even scan barcodes and brand barcodes on your products. And on those products which are more difficult, like berries and grapes, I'm sure you understand that is a bit more difficult to laser brand. We put them in little cartons, like this turmeric from Sanjay, who will speak later, in India. And we take the piss out of Big Pharma. So we say, listen, why buy all these pills? Why not go to your greengrocer and start with healthy food? I mean, all health-related costs are, most of them are related to food, to wrong food. And yes, we do understand that Bayer Monsanto have a tremendous business case by selling agrochemicals to the farmers, which have a few side effects, but for that they have chemicals as well. And by the time everybody has turned sick, they sell the pills to the ones who need to be cured. And these pills have a few side effects as well, but for that you have pills as well. So why don't you go to your greengrocer and start eating healthy food? And some then said, Engelsman, you are way too aggressive again, and way too not enough pacifistic, and also way too aggressive is not nice. So also and negative, and that's typical you. And so I have to admit that's all true. So then my friends persuaded us to also do something positive. And now we are launching this Dr. Good Food campaign with real doctors prescribing recipes in their practice rooms, recipes not for pills, but for food. Actually, as a matter of fact, they cook food. They cook, they help you fix yourself with food. So if you go to the Dr. Good Food website, you will find many nice menus that do not only taste well, but it can also help you detox or get over your depression or other stuff. And now you wonder, do supermarkets like this? I'm afraid they don't. Why? Because they say, actually, you raise a middle finger against Big Pharma, which we're selling. You raise a middle finger towards conventionally grown food, which we're also selling. So that's not very nice. So we are forced into guerrilla branding. So what we do is we put little brochures in the packages, and we hope that the retailers don't discover this, but the consumers at home, they do. And by the time the retailer discovers this, we hope they're awfully slow, that we've gained a few weeks, and then we say, oops, we'll take this out immediately, and we do nothing. And we keep going until the third warning. And by that time, we hope that the season is over. Now we do the same, and that's my last slide, with students. So we send Dr. Good Food, doctors, which are basically students, with fake stethoscopes from India or China, I don't know, very cheap stuff, into the retailers, and they talk to the consumers. And by the time the fruit and veg boss says, do you have permission to do this? They say, yeah, from your boss. And then they go check their boss, who knows nothing, and they come back and say, you need to leave because my boss knows nothing. And then they say, no, not that boss, the real boss. And that takes another hour before that boss confirms that he knows nothing either. So by that time, the students are thrown out of the supermarkets, and then they go to the next outlet. And with that, dear Karin, I would like to hand over the floor to you again.
Thank you, Volkert. Thank you very much for the very, very insightful presentation, as always. And now it is my pleasure and honor to introduce Helmy Abouleish, the CEO of SEKEM initiative in Egypt, which was founded by his father, the late great Dr. Ibrahim Abouleish, in 1977. Helmy was born in Graz, Austria, and SEKEM promotes a sustainable development in ecology, economy, societal, and the cultural life. It also operates many educational facilities. The SEKEM holdings produce and process and market organic and biodynamic foodstuffs, textiles, and herbal medicines in Egypt, Arabia, and internationally. SEKEM is regarded as the worldwide pioneer in organic farming, and was awarded the Right Livelihood Award, which is the alternative Nobel Prize, in 2003, under the stewardship of Dr. Ibrahim Abouleish. Helmy is very deeply involved in SEKEM since it was founded. He studied economics and marketing in Cairo and was for a long time campaigning in national and international politics to promote responsible competitiveness, social entrepreneurship, and tackling the great challenges of our century, which are climate change and food security. He's been the member of many international organizations and councils, such as Fairtrade USA, the World Future Council, amongst others. And also, I'm very proud that he's the president of our Biodynamic Federation, Demeter International, which represents the international biodynamic movement. Helmy, we are very much looking forward to your presentation about the economy of love, how we can measure all this stuff, what Volkert talked about. Helmy, the screen is yours.
To establish a community in the desert where people live, work, and learn together, and at the same time produce ethically, environmentally, and socially sound products, and unfold each one's individual potential. Now, with this vision, a miracle has been established, as you just said. It is SEKEM, which over 40 years has proven to work in the desert. Thousands of people are working there. Hundreds of kids go to school. Thousands of students go to the university. And a lot of products, mainly sold in Egypt from biodynamic sources, are produced at SEKEM. When my father, as you can see on the next slide, passed away in 2017, the whole SEKEM community, including myself and our friends, we were thinking now, what's next? What are we going to do over the next 40 years? And basically, we have then came back with a vision for Egypt in 2057 with 18 different SEKEM vision goals, but one in particular was to prototype this concept of Iqtisad al-Mahabba, or economy of love, to an extent that it goes mainstream. So we believe that in 2057, all over Egypt, companies will use this concept of economy of love in their communication about their supply chains with their customers and so on. How come? Now, the first question, obviously, as you can see on our next slide, from all of our friends was, do we really need another certification or communication about agriculture and trade and processing? And yes, we believe, you will see this on our next slide, that we need to add to what we have at the moment in the world of Demeter, in the world of organic, in the world of fair trade. We need to add, as Volkert rightly said, some dimensions which are missing in our communication. So transparency is one of them. But as you can see on the next slide, there are many, many factors of sustainability, sustainable development in agriculture, which are not always covered by the different schemes, whether it's energy, water, biodiversity, and many others. And not to forget, it's also about, as you can see on the next slide, the impact of what we do on our whole communities. And in SEKEM, for example, this miracle which happened over the last 40 years would never have happened unless we would have continuously thought about how the products and the way we deal with products impacts our community. Our community, but also, as you can see on the next slide, our individual potential unfolding. So, in this regard, we have developed, together with my father, as you can see on the next slide, 4 questions, which we believe every product and service which we can buy in the shelves of supermarkets anywhere in the world we should be able to answer. One is, what is the impact of this product on the environment in everything in detail, and not only for the core product, but also for the packaging material and so on. What is the impact of this product on the people and the community? What is the impact of this product on the individual potential unfolding of the people involved? And last but not least, what is the impact of this product on the value distribution? What is the impact of this product on the fair price question, which can only be reached through cost accounting? And so we have then as you can see on our next product, developed first of all a tool which we call Impact Trace, which is a tool meant to include full transparency in the supply chain, obviously starting with our farmer, and then, as you can see on our next slide, goes through the whole supply chain from farmer to the end user. And in particular, on our next slide, you will see this can help us then to really follow such a product like a SEKEM organic anise herbal tea bag, from the seed to the farmers, to the nursery, to the production of the anise, the packaging, and distribution of the products to the supermarkets. Always following the chain of the products, but also those of people involved. Now, what does this in the end leave us with? And there I can merge into what Volkert already mentioned. In the end, we try then also to show on our product what and how this product's true cost in comparison to conventional products looks like. And as you can see on the next slide, for example, for such an anise, SEKEM anise tea bag box in comparison to a conventional anise tea bag box, we can, for example, calculate that we were able to produce this box with 25 liters less water for every box. And this is all based on sources from FAO, Soil and More. Tobias will speak afterwards and can dive into this more. And obviously Eosta and all of our partners. But as you can see also on our next slide, then we went even further and we calculated the damage cost of this box of conventional anise versus a Demeter anise. And guess what? Each one of these boxes on the right side, the conventional anise boxes, costs 25 euro cent in water damaging cost. This is quite an amount for such a box. And if you go even further and you look into the impact of these boxes of anise to climate change, then first of all, you will see that such a Demeter anise box sequesters carbon, nearly 75 grams of carbon per box. But this has also a cost, and the cost attached to it are 5 euro cents per each box of impact on our value of the greenhouse gas emissions per box. And going one step further, as also Volkert has already outlined, we can even measure today the impact on health. And guess what? The box, every conventional anise box on the shelf, in comparison to a Demeter Economy of Love box from SEKEM, costs you nearly 1 euro cent of acute treatment costs in the end. So, to conclude, what I want to say is we strongly believe in that the consumers of the world do not want to destroy the planet, do not want to destroy the environment, do not want to harm their communities and societies. And that if we supply them with the right information, if we reach out to them and answer these 4 questions, which every one of them should be able to answer before he makes a real purchase decision, a smart purchase decision, then many of them would change their behavior. And this is why we are very optimistic, because we believe in the consumer, that we will see many, many more consumers of the whole world, in all countries of the world, from Egypt, India, to all other countries, moving to more sustainable, to more organic and more biodynamic products over the years to come. Our job will be to give them the right information, and they will make the right choices. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to introduce Krishnendu Chattendee from Ambootia. He's speaking on behalf of Sanjay Bansal, the founder of Ambootia. He could not make it today due to an unforeseen last-minute engagement. Krishnendu is the Vice President of the Center of Excellence at Darjeeling Organic Tea Estates. He's a professional agriculturist and has also worked as a tea planter for 27 years, practicing biodynamic agriculture for 17 of those years. He has got many qualifications and expert knowledge in training like food safety, COT audit, as well as an LED audit. Currently, he's the sustainability head at Ambootia. Krishnendu, the screen is yours. Ravi, please play his presentation.
Good afternoon to all. Thank you, organizers, for giving a chance to us to present our case. And thank you very much, Mr. Englishman, Mr. Abouleish, who already shared their deep knowledge with us. My friend Tobias will be speaking later of this part. Mr. Bandel is not available. I am speaking on his behalf. Before I speak and I take you through the glimpse of what we do in our production processes, let me introduce my company to all of you. I represent a company called Darjeeling Organic Tea Estates Private Limited, commonly known as Ambootia Tea Group. We make organic tea, but much beyond to this. I reckon the sustainability for us is the continuity, developing the present with the responsibility towards the coming generations, to maintain a practice and culture at our farms that preserve the environment, socially conscious, and supportive of economic development. We work to infuse quality in life of our gardens, and that is the core of our business procedure. So we are called as the pioneers of organic and biodynamic farming in India. We have 7,500 hectares of land under tea farming. We are the largest biodynamic tea producer. We are responsible for 10,600 workers employed in the company and 65,000 people who reside in our farms. But more than anything that we pride in is our commitment toward the sustainability. Now, at DOTPL, we look at the sustainability based on the 4 pillars of a life: this environment, economic life, social and cultural lives. And we write our reports on sustainability as per the GRA standards. And next slide, please. So this is what we developed as the sustainability tea leaves of the company. The tea leaves look something like that. And every petal, if you can see, represents a core value of our business and our belief. Next, please. So this is the backdrop of why principle number 15 of Rio Declaration was taken by my company to be the ethos of our production model and how we perform our businesses. Thank you. Next slide. This is the sustainability flower, where we have shown that the 6 elements of the environment, they synergize together and how they are related to nurture and protect the core values of our business and our society. Next, please. So at DOTPL, we are committed deeply to the environment, economic life, social and cultural life. But as an agriculturist, my concentration always goes back to the soil, because all of us know that life starts there, also ends there. So soil is of paramount interest to us, and most importantly, the carbon should be your cornerstone of every tea estate, and there's no reason there'll be too much of carbon going out to the environment. Too much of carbon in environment and air depicts the failure of our farming system. As Mr. Englishman has rightly told earlier, that if your soil is good, everything seems to be good, all right. Because a good, healthy, vibrant soil will make the food better. A better food will make the society more vibrant, free of diseases, and thinking process will be better. So our primary job is to enrich the soil, and to do that, we have to bank on biodynamic agriculture. And everything else that comes beyond is the effect of good soil management. So if the soil is good, if we can manage our soil well, the economic life of everybody in the company will be doing better. Everybody prospers, and everything is taken care of fully. Next one, please. So we talked about social and cultural life. These are important because at the core of the business, the interest of the people are of most important and critical factor. A supportive, a happy, a well-doing, a healthy community is the base of any organization. And whatever we do has to channelize back to the central force of the workers and employees. So tea estates are basically very worker-centric organizations. It needs huge amount of workers. And if the workers are well kept off, if they are well and happy with the arrangements, the productivity goes off, the production comes with the big benefits, and a happy product reaches to a customer. Thank you. Next one. True cost accounting is a futuristic aspects which Mr. Englishman was talking about in details, and Mr. Abouleish was talking in details. I believe my friend Tobias will also be touching upon this. I'm just happy to share that my company has adopted the TCM method, and we are working on this for benefits of the society, as well as to make people understand that commonly what is thought of that organic products are more costly and non-affordable is a misnomer. Next one, please. So 2030's agenda for United Nations was adopting to 17 SDGs, and this is what we should be focused at. And I can say proudly that my company attains every of the aspects of this 17 SDGs, and we have our own way to focus on that. In the next slide, I have given a link which can be shared with people who can look for it. Next one, please. These are the 5 principles of sustainable development adopted by United Nations. The development is only possible if our focus is towards the partnership, peace, planet, people, and prosperity. Prosperity, of course, is the end product. If you're well focused to other angles, and your business has to be development, sustainable business is only possible if your agriculture practices are sound, if you have given responsibility to be a true custodian to the environmental factors and natural capital resources, and you make justice to each of these segments, your production, your business model can be defined as sustainable. Next one, please. So in this page, the link is there. So this link can be copied. I am requesting the moderators to copy this link. So this link can be copied to see our focus on the SDGs. Next one, please. We are in agriculture, and agriculture has the biggest threat with the climate factors, the change in climates, and it has been seen that the soil which is resilient, the soil which is vibrant with microbiome, the soil that supports the plants, and the plants who create the soils, if this structure is okay, your agriculture is in safe hand. It is our experience in many years that compared to conventional farms, the organic farms do much better in an adverse climatic conditions. And biodynamic sciences answers all the issues that comes normally to the people's mind when talking about agriculture and prosperity. So biodynamic agriculture is our future. It is how we have guarded our business, agriculture business. Next one, please. Lift to Cup is a patented model in our company, where we have tried to create a complete traceability of our production model. It is more than necessity that we focus on the traceability of our product due to this pandemic and the situation in future days. It have a mandatory effect that all the production that we have, a responsible producer have to link all his production to the processes so that the customers can see at what processes, at what responsibilities have been produced. So in Lift to Cup, we have geotagged our production areas, and every batch of production that comes out from the sections or the areas are barcoded. And when a product is exported to a country or a consumer, he can actually scan the barcode to see the entire footsteps, the production steps through it. Next one, please. So agriculture is 70% of global emissions are from agriculture or allied sectors. Agriculture directly, the factories that produce poisons in name of fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides, what's not. And our farms, contrary to every organic farm, are in a sharp, it is a sharp contrast to that. In organic farm, as I earlier told, the carbon should be our cornerstone of the garden, not to be emitted in the environment. And by every organic procedure, we are impacting the soil carbon. We are enhancing our soil microbiome, in the soil microbiome and the soil life. So our products are more than carbon neutral. That means whatever emissions we do, we sequestrate more than that in our own soil. Next one, please. So this is our Sustainability Development Report of 2018. And this was done with collaboration with Soil and More Impact. And my friend Tobias will be speaking later. He is the man involved in it. So this link can be copied and shared with interested people to have a glimpse of my reports. And this is what we are focusing, because this is the future of marketing. Thank you very much.
And now we are switching to Tobias, who joins us from Germany. Tobias Bandel. I introduced him. He is the managing director. Hi, Tobias. He's the managing director of Soil and More Impact GmbH. After studying agriculture sciences with a focus on soil science in the University of Hohenheim in Germany, Tobias spent several years as head of fruit and vegetable cultivation and sales at SEKEM with Helmy. In 2007, he co-founded the sustainability consultancy Soil and More Impacts. Today, his team of 20 colleagues develops sustainable business strategies, globally advises on soil fertility, and provides digital services for supplier management and the assessment of procurement risk. Soil and More Impacts is focusing its consulting services mainly on companies in the agricultural and food sector. Tobias, to make it short, the screen is yours. We are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the very kind introduction and for having me, and sorry for only joining now, but I've seen most of the presentations in advance, so I hope I got a glimpse of what has been said. I would like to use the next couple of minutes to take on a journey which we embarked, as Karin just said, about 13 years ago, where we said we want to show basically that soil fertility, in particular humus build-up, is actually at its core the right thing to do, and not only for a sustainability report or for organic farming, but also in that humus build-up actually reduces economic risks or increases economic opportunities. We started, as Karin said, as a compost consultancy, but then very soon went into impact assessment, sustainability assessment, and now recently true cost accounting since about 6 years. And we were very happy when in about 2015 or so, most of the big four, KPMG, EY, Deloitte, started to publish reports which were named a new definition of value, natural capital risk, what have you. And they actually presented case studies. And one I just want to show you on this slide. It's actually from India. It's about a brewery in Maharashtra where they say, okay, according to our current way of accounting, this enterprise, this brewery has an EBITDA of 5.3, so earnings before tax, interest, etc. So they said, okay, at the same time, when we assess the value or the result of a company, of a brewery in Maharashtra, it is not totally out of the world to also look into water. Like, does this brewery actually has enough access to water, and is that potential risk considered in the annual accounts? And how the procurement strategy, do they actually buy market for conform barley? Like, do they pay market conform prices, or are there dumping prices involved? Maybe some corruption. The same counts for energy. How about a potential carbon tax? So by considering those additional aspects, water, carbon, energy, and barley, which is not so far away from a brewery day-to-day business, the result actually would look totally different. The positive EBITDA of 5.3 becomes a negative EBITDA of 3.8. And this hasn't been done by the sustainability manager of KPMG or a organic fundamentalist. This was just the type credit analyst or a company evaluator of KPMG. So they realized, okay, if we keep telling the world that this organization, this brewery actually makes a positive return, investors may invest, but they may take us to court in a couple of years when they realize that we told them the wrong numbers. So this is not something happening as we speak in day-to-day evaluations, but those case studies are out there, and sort of behind the curtain, they're doing many more of them, because they realize we have to change the way we assess companies, specifically in the food and farming sector, specifically the ones which have a direct dependency on agricultural commodities, because if we don't consider the risks linked to over intense farming practices, over fertilization, etc., we sort of deny existing risks, and we tell investors and the rest of the world wrong numbers about the performance of this company. And it's not only KPMG, it has been Allianz Insurance, McKinsey, even the German surveillance organization for financial institutions. They all actually push towards, you could say, a more organic farming system. It does not have to be certified in a way. They just say, if you run an agriculture system which actually decreases the humus content as a result of intensive farming, your cost of production goes up. Yeah, because if your humus content goes down, you have a leakage. A percentage of the fertilizer, of the water you apply to the system, is leaching out because the humus can't capture it anymore. So your cost of production increases because your input-output ratio gets worse and worse. So the question really is, which preventive measures have to be taken today in terms of cover crops, composting, etc., to actually make sure that the humus level stays the same, and with it to reduce the increase of cost of production. So this is a graph. On the left-hand side, you see euro per ton of product. On the right-hand side, like a function of a percentage of humus in the soil over a time span of 10 years. And this is also what they say. Even some people talk more about 5 years, but certainly not the next generations. We talk about a pretty short time frame where they say we must change farming practices. We must change incentives to farming practices to make sure that we are not running into not only like increasing the losses at farming, but an unprecedented increase in food prices. Because the current way of producing, of agriculture practices, will cause an enormous increase of food price. So only more sustainable practices, which maybe appear more expensive today, actually are able to secure on the long run affordable food for everybody. Now, we said this is great. Finally, somebody, even we didn't expect the financial sector would it be, but finally somebody institutional supporting the rollout of organic farming. So we put together a set of tools, for instance, our Soil and More risk. And this is not a pitch. This is just to show you that it's actually possible, that we take GPS coordinates from farmers, we put them in georeference maps, soil maps, water risk map, climate models, etc., and then generate a risk profile, which is mostly used by procurement managers, telling them this farmer maybe appears to be a very cheap source of wheat or potatoes, of carrots, but actually the risk of nutrient depletion or water stress or disease pressure as a result of non-existing biodiversity is only to increase. So better watch that guy, maybe talk about adaptation practices, or maybe look for somebody else who's more sustainable, just to give procurement managers for the current season, but also for the coming seasons, an input to the decision-making process, in addition to cost and quality, like the strategic readiness for climate change, to know whether this grower basically is on the right track or on the wrong track, even if he or she appears to be a very cheap provider of, let's say, cereals. So basically, we answer two questions with this tool, which is, how many, what's the percentage of your this year contracted volume, for instance, wheat, is actually at risk due to the current weather anomalies. It didn't rain this spring, or it rained too much, or it rained at the wrong time. So that's the one thing, like surprise management, surprise avoidance in the current season. And the other question is, which of your current origins for wheat are actually still suitable to grow wheat in 5 to 10 years from now under the climate projections, and what should you do in order to make sure they can still grow wheat in 5 to 10 years from now? The good thing is that these tools, although coming from, let's say, the conventional financial industry, actually allow you to not only show that sustainable farming practices are less bad, but actually also show benefits. So what you see here is an example from an ecological farmer in Germany. The baseline, the zero line, is basically where the current way of accounting stops. So all the costs for fuel, for fertilizer, etc., are covered. So what we show here is basically the costs which are not considered yet. This is on a euro per hectare basis. Now what you see here, even as an organic farmer, you have CO2 emissions, which is good, because otherwise your soil would be dead. The good thing is that those about 1,200 euros per hectare of external cost due to CO2 emissions, sorry that presentation goes on by itself, is actually set off with carbon sequestration. So this farm, yes, has soil emissions, but it actually sequesters almost the same amount through regenerative farming practices. So it's kind of by itself already carbon neutral, not only kilogram CO2 wise, but also in monetary terms. There is some water pollution, 9 euros per hectare. There is some water use, they irrigate, external cost of 236. There's erosion cost, but there's also huge benefit created, humus buildup. And humus buildup, as said, is one of the key measures the financial sector is actually looking at, because this basically is the core indicator to show whether a farm or a supply chain is able to deal with the impact of the changing climate, to make it more resilient. So there's a huge benefit generated through cover crops, intercropping, wider crop rotation, composting, which builds up humus and increases the stress or the resilience of that farm. A little bit of biodiversity impact, energy and transport, but overall, this farm, according to this new methodologies from the financial market, generates a currently not accounted 1,400 euros per hectare societal benefit. So this is an ecosystem service this farmer doesn't get paid for. This is what the farmer produces, which other farmers don't. So this is basically something we need to look at, how to integrate this into our future way of reporting. And this could be, as just showed by Krishnendu, be integrated into sustainability reports on websites like Nature and More from Volkert, in other corporate communications like at SEKEM. But there's also new ways of doing this, for instance, to put it in the annual reports. Until we really can put it into balance sheet and profit and loss, this will still need some also work from the regulatory bodies. We are working with them. In some accounting systems, it's already possible. And this is an example where it actually has been done. This is a multinational company, Olam. You know them, they're listed in Singapore. They introduced in their financial statement this new cost center or position, which is called biological assets. Yeah, where they basically look at their own farms and whether the biological asset, being trees, soil, etc., is decreasing or increasing from one year to the other. So this is not a very fancy, communicative, marketing-oriented communication of the benefit or cost, which can happen as a result of true cost accounting and a new way of reporting. But this is actually where we want to get, that we can show that, for instance, improved humus content actually increases the value of a company. And because in the moment, companies are penalized for doing this because it's just booked as a cost, reducing the profit. So we want to show, and there is already good progress made, that it actually adds value to the company, both on the P&L side, but specifically as an asset on the balance sheet. So with this, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what's happening out there, what we are trying to do as Soil and More Impacts with our tools, both consulting, but also in software tools, trying to help companies to actually show the well-deserved benefit as a footprint, as a good print of the good practices they do at farming level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tobias, so much for the wonderful presentation. Very, very informative as always. So, dear panelists, we will now go through our question and answer round, and we start with a question from one of our attendees to Volkert. Volkert, I believe you in your data shown on your presentation about the saving of the 27 sick days as well as the water. But there are many non-believers out there. We had a call. One of our panelists last webinar had a call from the Dutch embassy. How do we talk to these non-believers about this data? How was this data collated? What is the kind of formulas used and who collates it? Could you please share a little bit on
that? Your question, Sandeep, for which thank you, is how to talk to the non-believers and how to persuade them to look at the real costs. Is that right?
Yes, with the data. I mean, what is there? Somebody asked the question, attender. What is the data behind? How did we come to those numbers of 27 sick days and things like that?
Okay, got it. There are various data, and I would also like to invite Tobias to comment on this. He's probably got a better oversight, but there's a famous study from the FAO on the externalities, in which they calculate that the total damage of our global food production is about $4.8 trillion US. And that's based on very scientific input data from various institutions, think tanks, universities, and researchers. Another source for interesting data is developed by TEEP, the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, a think tank consisting of many scientists that know about the costs of people and planet. And finally, you have other think tanks and coalitions like the Natural Capital Coalition and the Social Capital Coalition, which are basically collective networks of financial auditors, scientists, financial experts who keep collecting the right data and developing the new KPIs and protocols to develop templates for monetization. That's pretty much undoubted and unchallenged. I've received comments on our true cost accounting pilot that maybe sometimes things are missing, but nobody has ever challenged us on the correctness of the data. As far as I know, Tobias, would you agree with that?
I expected that you forward part of the answer to me. Yes, I agree. I mean, on the one hand, to be very honest with you, true cost accounting as we have it today is, on the one hand, a rather young science, if you want to call it that way, but it actually came way too late. Yeah. And in the same sentence, I want to say we have enough to use it. A model is never perfect because by the moment it is updated, it's already outdated again. On the other hand, the basis of true cost accounting is pretty much, if you want to call it, life cycle assessment and the concept of externalities. And this is something the science community globally talks about since 1960, 1970 or so. So there is pretty solid scientific models behind those assumptions in terms of natural capital, which is climate, water, biodiversity, and soil. Social capital, which is mostly about skill development, social aspects, and human capital, which is mostly about health. So social and human are, let's say, the weakest because they're also the most difficult ones and most sort of subjective, less global. Yeah, but on the natural capital side, this is pretty solid numbers adopted by not only the organic movement, but actually the models we use are also based or used by the Danones, Nestle, Olams, Syngentas. Because we just know we can look at left, right, and center and try to deny, but just open the window, look outside, you see the climate is changing. And it is bloody complex, yeah, but there is some fundamental logic to it, which people actually tend to agree because you can see people feel there is no water. So the basic science is there, I would say. Where people still discuss is the monetization factors. There is solid science like from the FAO, but also concepts. We just reviewed together with EY the 30 most common valuation approaches. There is willingness to pay. There is prevention cost. There's repair cost, like how to come to terms with like what is the societal cost of a ton of carbon. There's whole conferences about it. At the end, they all are between $80 and $150 a ton. Yeah, so you could say, well, it's almost double, but it's not 1 or 10,000. It's in the range of 80 to 150. So there is always a variation, but actually, and with that, I would like to end, is the facts we have in common are much more than the stuff we disagree. What I'm trying to say is we have enough common ground to move ahead. There will always be critics because change always hurts and risks your position and sort of implemented processes. But this is about 2020. We need to fundamentally question the way we do business because continuing with it is no option, and that hurts and will generate critics. But I can say we have enough solid science and references to actually do what has been presented.
Thank you, Volkert. Thank you, Tobias. Karen, over to you.
We just have started to formulate it as a standard a year ago or within this last year. We have launched it in Egypt in the local market. We plan to use it for all products of SEKEM, which are pretty many products, 200 or more, within the next 2 years in the local market, and communicate with our customers and partners in Egypt about it. But we started in the meantime to discuss it also with our partners in different other networks, the Biodynamic Federation, the World Future Council, the World Getianum Association, and many other. ERP, of course, is one of the most important. The fair trade movement in large, and many of our partners taking fair trade certified products. So we try now to first of all establish a prototype which works, and then to offer this to everyone who is interested, everywhere in the world.
We've tried hard to keep Helmy's love exclusively for us, Karen, but failed bitterly. Now he's scaling up and loving everybody.
That's the way love goes.
Very bitter, yes.
Thank you, Helmy.
Yeah. Yes. So now a question to you, Tobias. Also, so you talked about the soil and more concept and the cost accounting thing. So are you satisfied with the spread of your concept? Are you in the international markets working already very much? And do you think that, coming back to our pandemic, do you think that COVID can push this in a good direction even?
Yeah, before I answer your question, just for the protocol or the minutes, I would like to officially state that I do believe also as a company that we should not and cannot monetize everything on planet Earth. Yeah, because how dare we to say the life of a butterfly is worth $5? But having said that, our planet Earth is suffering big time from human ignorance. So we need things like euro and dollar and rupee signs to speed up the transition towards a more meaningful food system. Yeah. So I also have no problem of giving a ton of carbon a euro sign, but it's not the universal silver bullet to solve all the problems. It's just a transition accelerator to use euro signs and to open doors for transition and speed up the process. So that's just for the protocol. And apart from this, to your question, yes, actually, most of the requests we get from banks, from financial auditors, even from Standard & Poor's we were talking to last week, because they realized on a very simple example, for instance, ExxonMobil was downgraded at the stock exchange because they didn't have an adequate climate strategy. So their AAA rating was at risk. And it's very simple. If you have like a lot of offshore oil platforms in the Gulf of Mexico with an increased number of hurricanes going through the Gulf of Mexico as a result of climate change, that hits your economic performance. And if you ignore this, you're just ignorant. And this is not accepted anymore by the financial markets. And the same counts, and this is actually articulated in that Allianz report I was showing the letterhead, that they say, and they are not addressing farmers, but importers, traders, processors, they say, okay, dear customers, currently we are your insurance providers for an insurance against business interruption. Yeah, so you can pay us the monthly fee, and then we insure you against business interruptions in case your packing material storage burns down. You cannot pack, you have no sales, we can insure against this. But, dear customer, you have more risks in a packaging material store. If you're in the food sector, you heavily depend on agriculture supply. And with this, you have a direct dependency on droughts, on floods, on pest and disease pressure. So please install a risk management system which covers those additional natural capital risks and ideally promote practices in your supply chain by, for instance, paying higher raw material prices to make sure that this known risk is reduced, like you would install a sprinkler system in your packing material store. Otherwise, we can't insure you anymore. So this is written black on white in this report. And this, of course, creates some noise in the market. And people say, okay, we might have had a sustainability report, a carbon footprint where we touch on farming level, but this sort of information we never collected. We just asked the supplier, how much is the wheat? And try to push the price. So there is a huge request from banks for credit rating, from insurance companies, and also the companies itself, the trading companies will say, well, I wanted a credit from a bank, but they start now asking all these funny questions. So there is a huge movement which actually pushes, driven by the financial market, pushes to an ecologization, let's call it this way, of the farming sector, and mostly actually in the conventional part because they have the highest risk. Some organic biodynamic follow. Of course, there is also sometimes the mindset, we are already good because we are Demeter, but even they have sometimes some homework to be done. But yes, it's international, it's across sectors. It's hard not to read something about this topic every day in the newspaper. Yeah, it's full throttle ahead.
Okay, thanks for this elaborated answer. But you can keep on unmuted because we have a ritual on the always ending our webinar with a kind of key takeaway session. So everybody should give us a very short, key considering of this topic, and maybe also looking forward. So a motto for the future. Can you start, please?
Yes, I'll keep it very simple. So in true cost accounting and sustainability reporting in general, there's many approaches. and we keep arguing who's better and you do this, but I do it better, etc. So I think to really move ahead, we should focus on what we have in common and do this rather than discussing where we have different opinions, because that's a huge energy drainage. So focus on what we have in common, on the good print, and go for it.
Thank you, Volkert. Thank you, Tobias. Karen, over to you.
Thank you. So, Helmy, may I ask you something? And so really quite exciting, this economy of love. That's the first time that I heard about that. Big concept. So how is it? How do you spread it? Do you spread it? Do you want to spread it? So share with others outside of your circle of Eosta and Soil and More and so on. And is it especially in India known by now?
We just have started to formulate it as a standard a year ago, or within this last year. We have launched it in Egypt in the local market. We plan to use it for all products of SEKEM, which are pretty many products, 200 or more, within the next 2 years in the local market, and communicate with our customers and partners in Egypt about it. But we started in the meantime to discuss it also with our partners in different other networks, the Biodynamic Federation, the World Future Council, the World Getianum Association, and many, many other. ERP, of course, is one of the most important. The fair trade movement enlarged, and many of our partners taking fair trade certified products. So we try now to first of all establish a prototype which works, and then to offer this to everyone who is interested, everywhere in the world.
We've tried hard to keep Helmy's love exclusively for us, Karen, but failed bitterly. Now he's scaling up and loving everybody.
Oh, that's bitter.
That's a very long road.
Very bitter, yes.
So fine. So Helmy, up to you to tell us what is your key takeaway from today's webinar.
I believe that changes are coming, system changes are approaching us. The future wants these changes, the future is coming towards us, and the change will happen either out of crisis or out of our understanding and wisdom. And what we were discussing today is the wisdom path. We try, all of us, in different ways, to apply what the future wants from us. And I believe strongly that we, the human race, the customers, and all of us in the supply chain will be able to overcome with such innovative new approaches the challenges and prepare a better future.
Thank you. So last one, Volkert, please give us your key takeaways.
I would like to say, dear Karen, first of all, thank you for this excellent webinar, and thank you for all the Indian audience and probably from other countries for attending this. In the end, it is about dream, dance, and deliver. If you want to deliver change, dance, work together, and seek the co-creation. But that all starts with a shared dream. And if you don't dream, you're fake. And if you don't dance, you freeze. And if you don't deliver, you fail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Volkert. Thank you to our panelists, to all our attendees, and especially also to Nuremberg Messe India, who makes that possible as a host. And we will continue with the webinar series 2 more times, and then after the digital Biofach, and we are looking forward to see you next time, same place, same date, so always Thursday, every 2 weeks. And the next webinar will be learnings from the journey of industry leaders, especially in the Indian industry leaders in the organic sector, and how to sustainably grow your organic business. We are looking forward to that very much. And I hand over to Sandeep to say also goodbye.
Thank you, Karen. Ravi, can we have the picture of the next webinar details about our event, the digital event? This is the first international organic exhibition which is going online, and it is still at least a year till the next webinar. So, and this will be a very exciting place. On the next webinar, we'll have a glimpse of you how it is to participate in a digital expo, and we are really looking forward to having you in the next time. And thank you for all our panelists for those wonderful presentations. And all these are recorded, and they are up also on the YouTube channels of BioFark India as well as Bio-Reporter. And we are getting many views after, and also there is a lot of academic interest. So we are very happy to curate this series. Thank you all. Ravi, can we have a video to sign off? Thanks.
Thank you.